Hey everybody, Bryn Zalazar here, and today I want to talk to you guys about the Summoner, the controller, and how they kind of interact with one another as well. So thank you guys so much for joining me. If you've seen my other videos regarding kind of the Dark Knight and the Paladin, thank you very much for that. I just wanted to talk to you guys about one of my other favorite classes, which is the Summoner. So hopefully whether you're either interested in the Summoner, you're interested in more kind of controller tips and macros, hopefully this video will kind of help you out and at least give you some ideas on how you can kind of configure your system as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and then what we're going to do is kind of cover three major topics, just like kind of in the other videos. We're going to talk about our controller layout, like where I kind of set up my cross hotbars. If you need any tips in kind of what filtering and different things like that with your controller, I'll post kind of a link in the video, hopefully right around now, to those previous videos if you want to get more in depth with controller settings. But anyway, back to my point, I'm going to talk about the layout that I'm using, macros that I've set up, and then kind of just thoughts on the Summoner rotation, because Summoner really is a job about priorities as opposed to anything else. So I'm also here with my daughter today, who is in the kitchen eating breakfast, so she might be chiming in at any moment. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up with that. But without further ado, topic one, controller layout. So I'm going to go through my cross hotbar, and I use a lot of macros on the Summoner. So we'll start with the left trigger as we normally do. So in the left-hand side, I use what I call Shadow Flare. It's a macro that combines, Swift Cast with Shadow Flare to be able to get those off really quickly. Then I've got a macro for Enkindle, which basically stacks all my various buffs for that job. So if I do that, it'll do Spur and Rouse, and then it will eventually do Enkindle. So I just go ahead and target there because we'll be coming back to that later. Then over here we've got Fester, and then down here on the bottom would be Miasma 2. This is very helpful, kind of a PvP. You don't need a lot of, you can just press down, it's an insta cast, so very useful to have there. Then we got Dreadworm Trance, so for obviously level 60 summoners, that's very important to have, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. We got Raging Strikes to be able to better do damage. We've got Death Lair, which is the awesomest tool in the Summoner's rotation, in my opinion. It's so much fun to be able to get those off. And then we've got Ruin 2. So out on the left side, really only using two macros. Everything else is pretty much just straight abilities that I've set up. Now, on the right side, we got some more macros, and it apparently, they're just mainly over here now. So I've got what I call Summoner Main, and this is a macro that I'll show you guys, which is Bio 2, Miasma, and Bio 1 stacked together. Not necessarily the best, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but it does the trick, especially when you're trying to conserve some space. What I call Ruin Master. This is a combination of Ruin 3, Ruin 2, and Ruin 1. So it's going to, as you go into various content, if you go into it synced, you'll have, it'll use your highest level Ruin spell when doing that as well. Then I've got Try Disaster, and I macro that with my pet, and I'll show that here in a little bit. I've got Physic, just because as a summoner, sometimes you got to be versatile. You want to be able to at least pop off a cure every now and then. Aether Flow, which gives you obviously grants of 3 stacks of Aether Flow and restores some MP. Bane, which is awesome, especially when there's groups of enemies around. And Pain Flare, also good for AoE insta-burst damage. And then right here, Virus, just because I like to make sure that I have it easy access to it. So then switching to my second side, I've got Swift Cast, Sustain, Sprint for when you just got to get the heck out of those AoEs, Resurrection for a kind of support for the healer, so it's easy to be able to pop off Swift Cast and Resurrection as needed, and then Hawk's Eye, and then I've got my 3 summons, Summon 1, 2, and 3. And the reason I kind of showed this, yeah, we could kind of look at that, but with a controller, I tend to do just the main bar as well as my L and R2. So when I hold down L and R2, then you can see that I've got easy access to be able to switch out my summons, and if I need to Swift Cast or Resurrect or Sprint, I can do that by just accessing this hotbar as well. So that's basically the layout. Like if you look at the other layout, this is my layout for every job because it's not shared, so I can have access to my limit break, and I can call out my mounts, and I can call out my minions as desired. So anyway, that is the layout. I mean, it's pretty simple, and with this layout and with these macros, you can do a just ton of damage. But it really kind of ties into that, which is the macro, the mighty macro. So let's jump into that right now. So starting with macros, I kind of just line them up all up here. So when I said summoner main, here's what you're looking at the screen. It's your macro icon bio 2, and then you got bio 2, miasma, and bio. It groups them. If you're synced and you don't have access to bio 2, we'll just do miasma and bio. So you're going to be set there. Now, from a like pure efficiency perspective, 2.5 really isn't going to be the most, because obviously if you have room and you want to put bio 2, miasma, and bio on your bar, that's going to work better than doing it this way. You're not, I don't think it's necessarily going to give you too much of a loss. It just is going to be a preference. This is a preference of mine, especially at 60 when you get Tri-Disaster. There's a lot more you can kind of do with that, but I'll let you guys make the choice whether you want to use this or not. Ruin Master, pretty simple, uses the fail through technique. So we've got macro on Ruin 3, and then it's going to use Ruin 3 if available, Ruin 2 if Ruin 3 is not available, and then eventually Ruin if none of the above are available. Shadow Flare, so you can see that I've got a pet action here. So Aerial Slash that I'll use if I call that out, as well as Swift Cast and Shadow Flare. I'll leave it up to you and your preference if you want to macro in Aerial Slash, which is a pet command. Then next we've got, what I said it was Enkindle. So it's going to use Spur and Rouse before eventually actually using the Enkindle move, which is telling your pet basically to do their big super move. This basically stacks your pet's potency, so it's going to make that ability far more potent and therefore give you more of what you crave, that sweet DPS. All right, and then Tri-Disaster. So Tri-Disaster is great. It stacks all three of your debuffs onto the boss instantly. So I'm using a Tri-Disaster, and then I'm waiting a little bit, and then I'm telling my pet, which in this case is Garuda, to use Contagion. What this does is, obviously if another pet's out, they're not going to do that, but what Contagion does, so if I switch over since my pet's out and I just press right bumper, I'm going to go to my pet hotbar. Contagion is right here, and that's going to allow me to extend the effects of my dots, which is great because that added time is just added potency in the system and on the enemy. So what I like to do is I like to apply that, have her apply Contagion by Bane, and then go into my rotation, which is going to give me a lot more DPS per second, especially on large pools. Very handy. Very handy, and that's, again, all of this is my preference. And then we have Ruin 2, which is macroed, which I don't. Oh, actually, sorry, excuse me. I am using the Ruin 2, which should use Shockwave, and then Ruin 2, so the pet command there as well. Again, all personal preferences if you want to macro in your pet commands. If you're setting your pet to obey, you're going to want to maybe consider it, but it's going to be up to you in that regards. All right, well, and then last, so we talked about control of that, macros, so let's talk about my thoughts on this general summoner rotation. So what we can go ahead and do here is I'm just going to do this macro. She's going to use Contagion. You'll see the time jump up there, and there it goes. So now with that, I can apply, like, if that was in a group of enemies, Bane. If I really wanted to get into my damage, I can drop Pain Flare, Fester, and then I should, in this case, I missed, obviously since I didn't Bane anything, I did not get my third stack of Ethereal Attunement. Now, Ethereal Attunement is really important because that allows you to go into your Dreadworm stance, and which reduces your damage for Ruin 3 and allows you to cast that without just eating up your MP. So as that ticks down, I'm going to switch into a Ruin 2 and then pop off the Death Flare, which is going to give me just wrecking damage. Summoner is not necessarily the spike damage, but with the 3.0 patch, we're in 3.3 now, they do have just a lot of abilities to be able to do that. But it's all about managing those abilities. So now it looks like since Try Disaster and since Contagion are on both a 60-second time, you're able to continue to keep those in sync and apply. Now, one thing you can see is that it looks like Garuda did decide to use it, and that's because I did forget to put her into obey mode when summoning her. So that's just going to kind of cost me DPS in that there. So I'd recommend living in that kind of cycle together, because Try Disaster and Contagion are going to be on the same cooldown. Using them around the same time is going to help benefit you overall on your DPS. And so I've got 30 seconds before I have to I get a chance to reapply my Try Disaster. So now I have to go into that Summoner main, which is fine, but not necessarily ideal. So you're going to want to try to keep and manage that. So thoughts on Summoner overall regarding kind of the rotation. It's hugely important to manage your Aether Flow stacks. You can see that I've got one here right now, and I've got no Ethereal Tument. So that means essentially if I'm going to use like Pain Flare to give me one of those, I'm going to be off kilter. If you can get into your mind and be able to practice keeping your stacks of 3, and as these get turned into 2 and 1, these should be going up. So that way you're always kind of within this sync balance that you've got Aether Flow stacks or you've got Ethereal Tument stacks, and that will allow you to apply various things on the enemies as well. So Contagion's applied. Drop that, drop that. I'm not going to do Bane. We're going to wait till one of these comes back, and then you're going to see with that, I have 2 here and 1 here. So you're kind of looking at that 3, that offset. Now I'm back into Dreadworm stance and just going for it. As a DPS on a controller specifically, I'm able to really just wreck and bring a lot of damage to the fight itself. And it's in controller or not controller, you really have a lot of flexibility here, but it's just going to be about your preference. So just part of rotation, and I know I'm kind of just going all over the place here at the end of it, but Ethereal Tument, and then you can, boom, and you can start building up those stacks. So just, I guess, any advice for any summoners out there at 60, try to manage and balance this out so that you don't end up having 2 stacks and 2 here, because that always is going to mean there's going to be just a dead time for you in managing it. You got a 60-second cooldown here, 60-second cooldown here. Anyway, there's some really handy written guides that are going to actually detail out what all this means more specifically, but I'd encourage you to check those out as well. Anyway, thank you everybody so much for checking out this video. I guess standard rigmarole of, if you like it, favorite, subscribe, blah blah, bake a cake, email a friend that you haven't talked to in a while. I don't know, who cares? I just appreciate it. Hopefully this was helpful. If there was anything that I either missed, or you've got any thoughts about rotation or specific things, please feel free to leave in the comments below. If for any reason you have any other questions, or you need specific advice on anything, I'd be happy to take a look at that and either make a video or just talk to you directly. So with that all being said and out of the way, I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and thanks for watching.